We're slowly working our way back. And I promise I'm gonna get through this. Fuck, what are we doing? Victim was shot in that little room on Fresno Street and died instantly. We may have presented the, piece of evidence that contradicts the... We're going back to the autopsy report. Time of death is also... This is the type of revolver that's standard issue for members of the judiciary, then. Yes, and when I asked whether records are kept about who they're issued to, I was told that for the past 5 years they've been engraved with a unique serial number. Oh, but as far as I can tell, there's nothing like that on this gun, which tells us that it must have been issued longer ago than that. Is there anything interesting we can examine about this thing? No. Roger claims that Inspector Gregson died instantly when he was shot at the scene on Fresno Street. Is it the autopsy report? The trunk being covered in blood really only means that, it was left behind at the scene and then removed by Gina. No, it was left behind by the scene. It was removed by, what was her name? We'll have to try the autopsy report. Japanese really are a curious breed. Huh? Uh-oh. Yep, we're screwed. That's my Japanese friend's inexplicable thinking. It's why people talk of the mystique of the East. In case you hadn't noticed, I'm not the only Japanese around here. Do you even have a mirror? The court is not interested in the mystique of anything. You'll be penalized accordingly. Oh, bugger. Alright. Now that I've actually had a chance to think this through again and experiment, where are you? We're gonna roll with this. A photograph of the victim in the very location you claim he wasn't killed. Yes! But the point is, the posture of the body itself. Oh, it's curled up. Inspector Gregson had been shot there in that room. It's out of the question that his body would have been curled up in a ball like that. Rigor mortis stored in it. Okay, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but your logic is flawed. You could easily have adopted that fatal position due to the pain of the shot, which subsequently proved fatal.
Objection.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Judge Shigoku. It's your logic that is flawed. What? According to this autopsy report, the victim died instantly. He would have felt no pain, much less have been able to draw himself into that position. Ah! Which begs the question of why the victim's body is curled up in that way. Well, the answer should be abundantly clear by now. You're suggesting. The inspector's body took on that posture ahead of its arrival on Fresno Street, before it was coldly turned out onto the floor, inside of a large travel trunk. No! You're quite right! The shape of the body. It looked exactly as if it had been kept in a confined space. Okay, that's a big brain clue. That's a big brain clue. Shigoku, please present your trunk for investigation. Oh, no, please. I'm rude now. I believe it's very possible that it will contain traces of the victim's blood. Ugh! Bang. Present my trunk. I refuse. What? On what grounds? I'm the Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Empire of Japan. I shouldn't have to put up with this treatment just because of some stripling's baseless accusations. In other words, Judge Shigoku, there is blood in your trunk. I decline to answer that. As the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I have privileges that... At this moment, you're not a government minister. You are a witness in a trial in Britain's highest court. I don't care who you are or what your status outside this courtroom might be. You will not withhold information. Get his ass. Nothing is more important than the truth. Ugh. Ugh. Get his ass. Order in the court. Well, Judge Mr. Shigoku, what's it to be? You can't be serious. You did it. Have you no shame at all, Kazuma Sogi? What? Very well, I admit it. I did bring the inspector's body into the country. Inside my trunk, exactly as postulated by the defense, but I did not kill him. What? You. Dear God, outrageous. So it was you. You admit to Inspector Gregson's murder. No. I admit to nothing more than what I've said. Yep, called that one. Of killing the man, I certainly have no recollection. What on earth is that cryptic statement supposed to mean? I merely disposed of the inspector's body, which was left in my cabin, in order to avoid unwanted attention. As the judicial assistant over there pointed out, I had no chance to throw it into the ocean. So, my only option was to bring it into Britain with me and dispose of it somewhere else. You can't still deny it. If you didn't do it, then who on earth did kill the man? As you know, there was one other person in my cabin that night. He had the opportunity. Oh, you're turning on... And moreover, he'd already accepted a mission to take the inspector's life. Yep, you are turning on Kazuma. Oh! That's right. Who else could it have been? It was you, Kazuma Sogi. You. I never thought you'd stoop to this, Seishiro Jigoku. You've taken the words straight out of my mouth, Prosecutor Kazuma Sogi. You thought that by leaving the body in my cabin, you would pin the crime on me, did you? Well, the prosecution counsel has already admitted to visiting the witness's cabin on the night in question. Yes, on an assassination mission, no less. You wouldn't. So, what do you make of that, young stripling? You've heard my testimony now. That's all I have to say on the matter. I'll admit to nothing more. I don't believe this. Counsel for the defense. What is your position now? The court awaits your response to this witness's assertion. The assertion that on that night in question, the victim's assailant was in fact Mr. Kazuma Sogi. This isn't the dead end it seems to be. The answer's right in front of me. It comes down to Jigoku or Kazuma. And both of them had the opportunity to kill Gregson, but only one of them did it. And I'm just a step away from proving who. Very well. The defense is ready to respond to the assertion put forward by Judge Jigoku. The idea that the victim's murder could have been committed by Prosecutor Asogi is... Is it possible, or is it impossible? I mean... the answer's pretty obvious. But... we still have some questions to answer as far as, if this is the real murder weapon, it was issued, like, before Kazuma's time. He also has the sword thing to answer for. But there is, like, a chunk of sword missing here. There's, like, no sign of sword. Like, there's this question to answer for. This gun was issued before Kazuma's time at the judiciary. Close-range gunshot wound. No actual sign of, We're pulsing, so it means that if we stick with Kazuma... Judge Goku, let me remind you of something you said only a few minutes ago. You claimed that logical reasoning is the future of the judicial process. Ooh? It is, no question. Well, logical reasoning can prove something here. Namely, that it would have been impossible for Prosecutor Asogi to commit the crime. Ooh? What? The court will only accept an argument that is supported by compelling evidence. So present what you have, counsel. What proof is there that allegedly demonstrates the impossibility of Prosecutor Asogi's involvement? Have a look inside. See this huge gash across the side of the trunk here? It's gone right through the leather and into the metal behind. Gosh, for a metal chest like this to have been so badly damaged, whatever made the gash must have struck the side of the trunk with considerable force. Wonder how it happened. The tip of Karuma. This is how it was broken. Kazuma's swordsmanship is second to none. Can't believe he'd misjudge it like that. Clearly he wasn't in his right mind. He didn't have full control of the power in his stroke. Too distracted by malicious thoughts, perhaps. Well, that wouldn't be surprising. After all, he was on an assassination mission. What do we make of this? Karma, the great blade. It's such a thing of beauty. I want to gaze at it for hours. The tip of the great sword. Broken. Such a shame. It's been so meticulously cared for over the years. You can almost hear Karuma's sobs. Kazuma must have really taken a swing for that to happen. Okay. I'm kind of shooting blind as far as how this logic is going to come together.
Take that!
Try that. You're making the evidence weep here, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Oh, sorry? Every piece of evidence has a role to play in arriving at the truth. They're not playthings you can toss around at the courtroom for entertainment. I'm trying to save your ass, Kazuma. Work with me here. Never mind the evidence, you're out to make me weep, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh no, I can't upset Suzawa-san. I'll end up being upset too. No member of the crew was on sentry duty outside the first-class cabins nearly all the time. As long as the guard was there, it would have been impossible to fire a shot without it being heard. That very much narrows down when the crime could have been committed. Oh, the evacuation order.
Take that!
It's itinerary for crew members of the SS Grouse, my lord. This is conclusive proof. An itinerary? How does that prove anything? Judge Goku, the moment you acknowledge that you found the victim's body in your cabin, this itinerary suddenly became much more significant. What? Why? The night in question, as always, a crewman sentry was on guard outside your cabin door. As long as he was there, nobody could have fired a shot inside the cabin. Absolutely, because it's inconceivable that the guard wouldn't have heard it and come to investigate. That tells us that the crime must have taken place when the guard was elsewhere. That narrows it down to the 20 minutes just after 10 o'clock, as indicated on the itinerary. Yes, I see no flaw in your reasoning so far. But the crucial point is this: when the evacuation drill took place, the steamship had already put to sea from the port of Dunkirk. Now, clearly the murderer had only been committed by somebody who was aboard the vessel at the time. But Prosecutor Asoki stated in yesterday's proceedings. I didn't come to Great Britain to take anyone's life, so I left Gregson and disembarked the ship. I spent that night at a boarding house in the town and returned to England the following morning. Which I'm sure the court will agree is conclusive proof that Kazuma Soki couldn't possibly have carried out the killing. God! Hold it. No, absolutely not. I don't accept that at all. What do you mean? The boy's just saying that to exonerate himself. Can't trust that he really disembarked the vessel. Obviously, after he left my cabin, he hid himself somewhere nearby on the ship. Just waiting for his chance to come back and finish the... Ooh. Ballistic objection. No, that's out of the question. Isn't it, Cosmo? As the defense rightly recalls, I disembarked the vessel and spent the night in a boarding house in Dunkirk. As I said yesterday, I signed my name in the accommodations register book. All extremely easy to verify and undeniable proof. Ugh. There's no escape this time. You can forget that you're a judge or government minister. It's time you gave the court an honest answer as a common man. Oh, he's Morbin. He's Morbin. You killed Inspector Tobias Gregson and transported this corpse back to Britain. Then you dumped the body in the room at Fresno Street and made it look like as if the murder happened there. That's what really happened, isn't it, Seishiro Jigoku? It was that damned trial 10 years ago. That's when all this began. Oh, looking back now, it was decided that day. It was doomed already. Ooh. Just like back then. What? He's Morbin. It's over. My life is over. Holding his hands together like he's about to get chains clapped on him. An assassin to eliminate a professor in Japan. A Japanese assassin to eliminate a detective in Britain. Both assassins will use diplomatic immunity to evade conviction and return safely to their homelands. The assassin exchange request arrived from Britain about 1 year ago. Though it was hardly a request, it was a demand. And for that you decided to recruit Mr. Asogi. But things didn't go according to plan. Your chosen assassin never made it to Britain. You found yourself unable to dispatch a replacement because I was already on my way to Britain at that time in Cosmos Place. And that left me with only one option for carrying out my obligation. To eliminate the mark myself. Personally. Of course, there was but a single opportunity for me to do that. The International Forensic Science Symposium, I presume? That's right. Decided it would be safest to carry out the plan before my arrival in Britain. So I enlisted the help of my British counterpart and made arrangements for a pretext that would take the inspector to Dunkirk. To lure the man in, he was given a sham mission by the Reaper. What? Reaper? There's only one person who could have done that. The mastermind of the entire operation. The Reaper himself. So, that means that the assassin exchange was all planned by the Reaper? Which is gonna circle Asogi right back to Van Zeeks, isn't it? Not at liberty to say anything about my British counterpart. Anyway, the inspector accepted the Reaper's mission and dutifully infiltrated my cabin on the steamship. It was all a trap designed to lead him to France, at his own death. Oh, how awful. It was past 9 o'clock when I returned to my cabin from the dining hall that evening. I didn't give him time to attack me. I choked him until he lost consciousness. But there was a guard just outside the door, so I left it at that for the time being. The slightest noise might have aroused suspicion, so I bided my time, waiting. The 20 minutes after 10 o'clock. I'd intended to finish him by strangulation, but moments before I had the chance, he suddenly came around and went for me in a reckless move. I'd received a British-issued gun 16 years earlier, being a member of the judiciary as a visiting student. Never imagined I'd have to use it for something like that. So the revolver belongs to you, does it? And the victim was killed inside your cabin on the SS Grouse. Which begs the question of why you arranged for his body to be discovered in the room on Fresno Street. A young judicial assistant over there has already answered that question. There was no way I could take the body up on deck to throw it over the side. It's precisely where all the crewmen were gathered for the evacuation drill. Before the first-class cabin sentries returned, I took the corpse to the refrigeration room. Then arriving in Dover, you concealed the body into your trunk in order to smuggle it past the border police. I knew I needed to take steps if the police were to be convinced when the body was found in London. In that case, you must have known. You must have had intimate details of Inspector Gregson's intended schedule. Yes. My British counterparts sent me everything I needed to know. The inspector was due at Fresno Street at 5 o'clock that afternoon. Or to meet with a man by the name of Hugh Boone, from whom he would take back his police identification. I decided that the man would be the perfect person to set up as a culprit. So I took a hackney carriage over there with the body still in my trunk. It must have been just after we took this photograph with you at the hotel then. Yes, I wasn't expecting a welcoming committee. I was more than a little nervous. On Fresno Street, I spotted a young girl selling little firecrackers. Miss Venus, of course. I conceived of the candle trick there and then, so I donned a simple disguise and approached the girl to buy enough firecrackers to replicate a gunshot. What sort of disguise? For some reason, the inspector had a bright red hairpiece in his own traveling case, so I put that on. Although I suspect I drew more attention to myself in that than I would have otherwise. The hairpiece we found at the scene. The inspector had it ready for the Red-Headed League investigation. I only arrived at the room at around 4:45. So I quickly placed the body on the floor, moved the notice board, and set up my little candle trick. I arranged it so the firecrackers would go off with a bang around 15 minutes later. So that Mr. Boone, who was due to arrive at 5, would walk straight into a trap. Except for the last moment, I made a careless blunder. What was that? I imagine it was the bag of fish and chips. Ah! I didn't notice that it had fallen out of his overcoat pocket when I moved the body to the refrigeration room. Put it back into his pocket the following morning, but... well... it seems the warmth of the heated cabin had accelerated the decay of the fish. What an odd piece of evidence. Anyway, that's everything. All the sordid details of what I did. I've heard enough. for out the truth about the murder of one of the country's most capable and respected police inspectors. Witnesses will be tried in the coming days. For a crime of such a vile nature, you can expect the most severe penalty. Exchange of assassins. What a foolhardy idea. Mr. Jigoku, one last detail. Who was your counterpart in Britain? Who was the mastermind behind the assassin exchange? Nothing you say now can make matters any worse for you. Just tell us. Enough! I've already told you. I cannot say. Even though as things stand, you may very well never set foot in your homeland again. What are you waiting for? Can we get this over with by now? It's finished. All of it. I'm finished. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I now pronounce the findings of this court. The man of force is admitted to the willful murder of Tobias Gregson. Who's going to keep this going? Ooh. Seishiro Jigoku, it is the opinion of this court that you should be found. And may I remind all those present of the strict confidentiality demanded by this closed court. Moments ago, Mr. Jigoku signed a written confession, admitting to the murder of Inspector Gregson and the subsequent conveyance of the body. In short, the defendant's innocence has therefore been established beyond doubt. Oh, wonderful! Well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, thank you. Something wrong? The British counterpart. I'm just a little troubled. His silence. True identity of the Reaper of the Bailey. This extraordinary assassin exchange. We do remain in the dark about these mysteries. However, insofar as the indictment brought against the defendant in this trial, we have reached a conclusion. I have every intention of pursuing both mysteries. As a prosecutor. As you wish. Now, for the formal adjudication, Cosmo's gonna accuse Van Zeeks of being the Reaper still. I hereby declare the defendant, Baroque Van Zeeks. Wait for the objection. Yep. The prosecution calls for adjudication to be deferred. Counsel? The accused's innocence hasn't been fully established at all, and therefore it would be wrong to deliver a verdict at this time. That is the prosecution's unwavering position. What? But Judge Jigoku has already confessed. Nevertheless, Baroque Van Zeeks has committed crimes for which he must be punished. Well, it would appear you have information that the court needs to hear, Prosecutor Asogi. Certainly, the murder of Inspector Gregson was actually carried out by Seishiro Jigoku. It is clear from the witness's testimony that he was coerced into complying with the plot into this sick, merciless assassin exchange. That may be true, but so what I want to know is who coerced Jigoku? Who was pulling the strings? The victim went to France having been ordered on a mission for the Reaper, only to be murdered. In other words, the mastermind behind the assassin exchange is someone in a position to give such an order. As we've already established, the Reaper himself. Well, certainly, that would appear to follow. Prosecution hereby formally accuses the man in the dock, Baroque Van Zieks, of being the Reaper of the Bailey. And furthermore, I'm going to prove his guilt beyond all reasonable doubt. What? What? Alright. Order. 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 The Reaper of the Bailey. It's a long-standing mystery, Counsel. I'm suggesting you have some new information with which to build a case. Scotland Yard has already investigated Lord Van Zieks very thoroughly in that regard. And they found no evidence whatsoever to substantiate the claim that he's the Reaper. Perhaps, but circumstances have now changed. What do you mean? It's already been established that the Assassin Exchange was negotiated with Jigoku by the Reaper himself. Which means we now have a new line of questioning by which to identify definitively the man's identity. That is the prosecution's intention here. I must say I'm surprised by quite how tenaciously you appear to want to besmirch my name. You are guilty of an unforgivable crime, Lord Van Zieks. And I will bring you to justice for it. Whatever it takes. That explains Cosmo's silence before you. You'll stop at nothing to finish what Lord Van Zieks unwittingly started 10 years ago. Very well. Whilst it's extremely irregular, I will on this occasion grant the prosecution further opportunity for witness testimony. Defendant will disclose any and all involvement he has had with the Reaper and the Assassin Exchange. I thank you, my lord, for guiding the court so wisely. I hereby declare this court to be in session for a supplementary hearing. Uh-oh. How do we do that? Leg. Pray turn a blind eye to the discourtesy as I verify that this vile and unremitting accusation hasn't soured the contents of my hallowed chalice. Lord Van Zieks! I first had to suffer the pseudonym of the Reaper 10 years ago now. Ever since that time, I've endured the weight of implied guilt that's gone with it. Crush. So I welcome the chance to testify now and crush those allegations once and for all. Good. Then let justice decide, Lord Van Zieks. The prosecution seeks to begin building its case by calling the accused to the stand as the primary witness, in order that he may answer the accusation brought by the prosecution that he is the Reaper of the Bailey. And what says the defense? Putting the defendant in the witness stand can be extremely dangerous. And Cosmo-sama is so emotional at the moment, he's not thinking logically. You're right that he's not himself. I knew it would be like this. I came here today determined to face him through whatever may arise, as a lawyer and as his friend. And that's what we must do. Defense has no objection, my lord. Let's do this. Very well. Defendant, you will take the witness stand and give formal testimony on the subject of your involvement with the Reaper and the Assassin Exchange. As you wish, my lord. I've never taken the life of another, nor have I instructed another to kill. I've been investigating the truth behind the Reaper for years, and I was aware of Gregson's involvement. That's the reason why I went to Frisno Street that day, and how I came to discover the body. The point is, no common thread exists between myself, Gregson, and Dr. Wilson. Clearly, therefore, there's no reason to suspect me of being behind the Assassin Exchange. Oh no. So you deny all accusations by the prosecution. You see the problem, do you? The autopsy report done by Dr. Wilson, I believe, calls out Gregson. The autopsy report was on Clinton Van Zeeks. My man told a Borky both that you are the Reaper of the Bailey and that you masterminded the assassin exchange. I acknowledge that the public at large believe me to be the Reaper. However, that's a fallacy, which I alone am in position to forswear. Naturally, the prosecution believes the testimony given by the accused to be untrue. Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Yes? That's my name? Let me ask you, why are you here? What really brings you to this courtroom? Desire to uncover the truth. Even if the truth proves your client to be guilty? All my experiences in this courtroom, I've come to realize something. The truth can't be hidden. Sooner or later, it will come out. So it's always my intention to work with my client in pursuit of the truth. I want you to remember what you just said. Enough dilatory chatter. Counsel of the defense, proceed to cross-examine the witness. Yes, my lord. I know exactly what you're thinking, Kazuma. Oh, you're just waiting to point it out. Contradiction you're convinced lies somewhere within this man's testimony. We know exactly where it is.
Hold it!
So you're not what the general public referred to as the infamous Reaper of the Bailey. Exactly. Don't imagine for a moment that the court will be satisfied with a one-word answer on this. I realize that. 3 words. If you're intending to comment on every sentence, this could take a while, Kazuma. Didn't you find it disturbing, though? That one by one, defendants who'd been acquitted after your unsuccessful prosecution were killed? Let me answer that question by posing another. If, one by one, defendants who'd been acquitted after your successful defense were killed, would you find that disturbing? Disturbing? I couldn't possibly say how that would make me feel with a one-word answer like that. Exactly. Well, that told me. That speaks volumes. That means a lot. Even though I'm not the Reaper, that doesn't mean I ignored all the hearsay.
Hold it!
You say for years. How long exactly? Since the very first time the Reaper's influence was felt in this courtroom. 10 years ago now. And your investigations led you somehow to Inspector Gregson, you say? I didn't want to believe it. It was a personal acquaintance. We worked on cases together in the past. A friend, even? Felt like a betrayal. But I demanded permission to search his office at the yard without his knowledge. Just when you found his secret notebook, is it? It's when I first learned of the location he'd noted only as grouse at the appointment at 5 p.m. on the 31st. Though I didn't know the significance of those details at the time. But now we're at the nub of the matter. As it turns out, the significance for me personally was very unfortunate. That's the reason why I went to Fresno Street that day.
Hold it!
Why'd you go to that specific location? I thought that if it was the Reaper's headquarters, and by turning up there at 5 o'clock, I would catch whoever was involved red-handed. Or red-headed. Sadly, all that was awaiting me was the inspector's corpse. Yes, even though it wasn't designed for you, you walked straight into the trap set by Jigoku. Exactly. Jigoku had intended to implicate Ryubun, but unhappily for me, I arrived at the scene first. Ridiculously careless blunder. If I... Casa... Baroque has a contradiction in his testimony, but Cosma, listen to me, my boy. If Van Zieks is the one who fed Goku information about Gregson's schedule, why did Van Zieks walk into the trap Goku said? Or is this the ridiculously careless blunder you're going to try and play it off as? Moved on to just throwing insults around, I see then, Cosmo. Think what you will. It doesn't change the truth.
Hold it!
This is the lie. There is a link between you and Gregson, though. Of course, we were close acquaintances. We'd worked on numerous cases together. Considered the man to be a mentor of sorts. He taught me a number of important lessons. He did? Such as what? I'd best to eat fish and chips. Oh no. Where to buy good fish and chips, and such like. Fair enough. Well, that was convincing. Wilson was a coroner, of course. That was some time in the past. In any case, I understand it was several years ago now that he was invited to work at a Japanese university. That's right. He was a visiting professor at the Imperial Yume University in Tokyo. It should be unambiguously clear then that no link exists between myself and him. In other words, I had no motive for sending some assassin across the ocean to kill the man. Sounds plausible enough, and I want to believe it. Something about this just doesn't quite sit right with me. Yeah, we'll get there.
Hold it!
Certainly as it stands, there's no evidence to suggest that you concocted the scheme.
Objection!
But as it stands, we have only the accused's insistence of his innocence. Sorry? Perhaps there is some reason that would explain why he masterminded the assassin exchange, if a reason could be established later in these proceedings. Then the accused's claim in this testimony that he wasn't involved would amount to perjury. Well, yeah, that's true, but really Kazuma-sama intends to identify a reason and use it to make his case. So if you don't identify something first, you'll gain the advantage. This could be dangerous. What are you cooking? Convincing testimony by Lord Van Zieks. Well, certainly, with no apparent connection between the three men, there's no way to establish a motive. Testimony seems unassailable as far as I can see. Oh dear me, what a bleak expression. I agree there doesn't appear to be any particular link between them, at first glance. With the inclusion of one other person. Must be overthinking it, surely. The person, Mr. Naruhodo? Need to think back over all the information we've gleaned so far. Alright, and I'll review my notes about the case and all the evidence in the court record. Could it be that Lord Van Zieks has something to hide after all? This is going to be the thread that introduces the professor again. Which is the last unresolved point here.
Objection!
What is this? An autopsy report? Wait, this is 10 years old. From the autopsy of Lord Clint Van Zieks. What? My brother's autopsy report? I'm pleased to see. The defense doesn't intend to run from the undeniable truth. You were probably intimately familiar with this, so you probably knew about this from the start. That tracks. Hold on, court. What reason do you have for presenting a 10-year-old autopsy report here, counsel? This, the autopsy report of the professor's final victim, is an indelible link between Inspector Gregson, Dr. Wilson, and the defendant. Not that accursed name again. Professor. I've personally researched all the court records related to the case. I know that at the time, autopsy was considered sacrilege to the victims' souls. For a member of the aristocracy like Lord Clint Van Zieks, it was unthinkable. But someone implored the powers that be to allow the autopsy to go ahead. Inspector Gregson. He declared that he was certain he would obtain conclusive proof from the procedure. And it was Dr. Wilson who conducted the autopsy. His signature is clearly visible on the document. As promised by Gregson, the autopsy did indeed produce evidence. Evidence that conclusively proved Genshin Asogi was guilty of the murders. In my brother's dying moments, he mustered all his remaining strength to leave the vital clue behind. Indeed, it was the key to indicting the professor for his crimes and the conclusive evidence that convicted him. Enabled Lord Clinfan seeks to avenge his brother's senseless death. Marvelous victory in court. A marvelous victory, was it? I wonder if that's really true. What? Would the same be said if it turned out that the key piece of evidence in question was in fact fabricated? If the inspector, the coroner, and the prosecutor all colluded together to cast an innocent Japanese man as a mass murderer and send him to his death? It's outrageous. And now, 10 years later, for some reason, the secret has been threatened and needs protecting. From that angle, it's a reasonable conclusion by Asogi to draw. It's also very possible that, Baroque is getting, Damon Ganted here. Which is why the inspector and the coroner had to be silenced, isn't it? By someone in power in Japan and in Britain, using the two killers recruited for the assassin exchange. Order at once. 10 years ago, my father was convicted in this very courtroom as a mass murderer. He sentenced to death. But it was all a sham. I swore to myself that I'd prove it. Which is why I had to come to Britain. Whatever the cost. Uh-oh, get chaliced. You'll have to forgive me if I feel compelled to toast this vengeful Nipponese's tenacity of purpose here. However, crush it. He who fails to quash his emotions in the courtroom has failed as a lawyer. Come on, Kazuma, you know this won't wash. You're claiming your father was misrepresented in a trial that took place a whole decade ago. You must see that without evidence, that's nothing more than a wild accusation. As it happens, I have evidence. What? Oh. As the court has heard, I crossed the channel to France with Gregson on the 31st, and with him on the pretext of being the assassin recruited to kill Seishiro Jigoku. My true intentions were to make the inspector tell me the truth. What truth? Truth about the evidence. And he acknowledged what I'd already deduced. There's a closely guarded secret about what went on in that autopsy 10 years ago. What? A secret? I know nothing of any secret. While we waited for my supposed mark in Jigoku's cabin, I drew my clan's illustrious sword, counted up before the inspector's eyes. He very quickly understood what my true motive was. Why'd I see? You're that Asogi's young lad, are you? And what? You're gonna cut me down with that thing, is that it? And will very much depend on the answers you give to my questions. I want to know what really happened 10 years ago. The truth, that's all. Before we get into it, let me make one thing clear. I still believe your father was the professor. There's no doubt in my mind. Unfortunately, back then, we didn't have the evidence we needed to make the crime stick. So, you admit it then. The evidence used in my father's trial was fabricated. Was for the good of the country. Anyway, we're just following orders. Orders? What exactly did you do? Speak! I'm not saying another word. Even if your life depends on it. That's right. And even then. So that's when the tip of the sword broke. Oh, Kazuma-sama. If the results of Clint Van Ziek's autopsy were fabricated, the investigating officer, Gregson, and the lead coroner, Wilson, must have known about it. It can only have been ordered to prevent the course of justice in that way by one man. The man leading the case for the prosecution, Baroque van Zieks. Baroque van Zieks is the man who insisted on taking over the prosecution. Who was leading the prosecution originally? In other words, Bennett did have cause to organize this exchange of assassins. Exactly, and as was established earlier, it has to have been the Reaper himself who liaised with Jigoku in Japan to arrange the exchange. So it follows that the Reaper's true identity can only be that of the man who stands accused in this courtroom today, Baroque van Zieks.
Objection!
Cosma Sogi. What? What you've just told this court. Are you absolutely certain of your facts? Did Gregson really fabricate evidence for that trial 10 years ago? I heard it with my own ears. His shameful admission. In that case, I know. The name of the Reaper. Ooh. What? What? Lord Van Zieks? I gave no such orders. I know that for certain. Which narrows down the remaining possibilities to one. If Lord Van Zieks is the one behind all this, if memory serves me correctly, and I think it does, there was one man who was chief prosecutor at the time, who Lord Van Zieks insisted on taking over the prosecution from. As a fledgling prosecutor, it was his first big case. Then yes, there is only one other person who could have done something like that. I believe I know who it is, too. You! I had a feeling this name was going to come up. The true identity of the infamous Reaper of the Bailey is...
Take that!
the only person who could have arranged the assassin exchange and manipulated the autopsy results is the Lord Chief Justice himself, Lord Mael Strongheart. What? Lord Strongheart? Yes, it's true that 10 years ago, the defendant handled the prosecution of the professor in court. He only took over the case after his brother, Lord Clint Van Zieks, had been killed. I can only assume that this is the most inappropriate joke in British judicial history. Well, Lord Van Zieks? 10 years ago, I was very new to my profession, but I had a burning desire to avenge my brother's death, so I pleaded for control of the case. Investigation to that point, the supplication of the lords to allow my brother's corpse to be examined. All the evidence I was given, the autopsy reports, it all came from you. I spent my life since then believing I was in your debt for the way you stood aside and let me handle the trial. But I see now. I was very much mistaken. It was a hugely influential force that caused the inspector in the corner to break the law 10 years ago. And that same force was still felt a decade later on the other side of the world by Seishiro Jigoku. Lord Strongheart, everything falls into place when we recognize that you are the Reaper, the Bailey. Leg. The court awaits your response, my lord. This may very well go down in British judicial history, but I assure you, it is no joke. Consider this a formal accusal by the defense. It doesn't warrant a response. A formal accusal? Don't be absurd. Defense's claims are utter nonsense, a wild fantasy at best. Not going to defend yourself? You claim that there was some wrongdoing with Lord Clint Van Ziek's autopsy. That's utterly untrue.
Objection!
I heard it from Gregson's own lips. He admitted to it. And where's your evidence? What? Gregson's dead now. Unless you were thinking of summoning a ghost to the stand. You mean to say? I forget how the system works in your little backwater country. But in the courts of the British Empire, without evidence, there is no case. Ooh! I have no intention of entertaining some wild fantasy that can't possibly be substantiated by anyone or anything. Ugh! Order. Order in the court. Following Inspector Gregson's murder and in the light of Dr. Wilson's death as well, there's really no one left who could testify about the events of 10 years ago, is there? So that was the real purpose of the assassin exchange. This court has no business raking over the coals of a case that was concluded a decade ago. The accused brought by the prosecution and the defense is categorically denied. I take it there are no objections. Asuma, he's more or less waited his whole life for this moment. Is there really nothing else we can do now? Is there no other avenue we can go down in pursuit of the truth about what happened all those years ago? I think there was someone who could testify about Clint Van Ziek's autopsy. There is someone. He's gone to extraordinary lengths to cover his tracks. Insofar as dispatching an assassin all the way to Japan to ensure Dr. Wilson's silence. And Dr. Sith won't say anything against Strongheart. But there's still one ray of hope.
Objection!
Actually, there is one person. One person who'd still testify about that autopsy. Don't be ridiculous. There's no one left. Who, Ryunosuke? Who? Tell me. Asuma, please, this trial can't end. Not yet. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for the truth. So the defense would like to call to the stand to testify about the autopsy of Lord Clint Van Ziek's is. Well, you know it. He's right there on the screen right now. But we'll proceed next time.